how to start a circle. So this really walks you through the very basics of starting a circle within our chapter. How to register your circle on the leanin.org website, which is something that I don't know if every circle here has been registered, but is a really good way to recruit new members, also to communicate between members freely outside of email or Slack or Facebook or LinkedIn or the 100 other ways we can connect. And then it also kind of goes through, just in our startup guide, an overview of those best resources within leanin.org. So one of the big things too that we stress in this part of the guide is to really reflect before you jump in head first into starting a circle of why you're starting a circle, getting that commitment from yourself of kind of understanding why you want to do this, what kind of people you want in your circle, is that will help you then set the stage for who you recruit, how you kind of market or brand your circle as you're growing, and then two, what kind of topics you might discuss as the circle continues to develop. So really having that in your mind as a leader is important to make sure that the circle gets off on the right foot. And I'd encourage anyone, whether you're a leader or not, to kind of look through some of the links that are in this section when you look at the startup guide, because they can be really helpful to bring to your own circle and say, hey, this is a great topic on the leanin.org website. You can maybe step up and help your leader lead that topic. So some expectations of circle leaders. This is kind of bubbled down from the overall leadership group for our chapter, but to hold regular meetings. Most circles meet monthly or every other month. To attend these quarterly leaders meetings for a couple of reasons, really to connect with other leaders within Lean-In, to find new members to your circle, but also this is where we'll be then continuing to train group leaders, so you might miss out on some really good takeaways if you're not coming to these. Attending the pop-up events, hopefully all of them, but we know that they're going to be a little bit more, maybe some on weekends or throughout different times of the week, so just as many as you can, again, to meet new people, meet other leaders, and then to ask for help when needed, whether that's from people in your circle, people here, Amy and I, and just get advice when you do need it.
There are two things that are really, I think, core to Lean In that are not included in the current version of their kickoff guide. So the things that used to be there were what I was just talking about before, which was identifying your personal goals and also identifying what your circle goals are. So we feel like as a chapter that those are really important components. So that's why they have a special page in our chapter kickoff guide. And then also to share your own personal Lean-In story. So like we do in our connection exercises, finding ways to really connect with each other on a deeper level, and sharing that Lean-In story is a great way to start your first meeting, and finding out why are you there, what have you done in the past, and what are you looking forward to doing as a result of being in Lean-In. And then another thing that we have learned is really helpful to do, again, having that structure, is to create an agenda for your meeting. So the sample agenda is very robust and may change depending on what your topic is, how much coaching you want to provide to each other, and how social and free form you want it to be. But these are just some big bullet points that are really modeled after how we have evolved as a chapter and how we will run our chapter meetings. It's just some ideas to consider for creating structure for your own meeting. One of the things that is somewhat new and going to be evolving and really taking hold in the kickoff group, which is one of our biggest circles in our chapter, is some peer coaching. So we have a little bit in our kickoff guide about how you can do informal peer coaching if you would like to do that, and then the people in the kickoff circle are really going to dive into that in 2018. This is just totally overwhelming you with all of this. The goal is to have it all in one place, yes, so you can go back to it on a regular basis, because we've never had that before. Yep. So when people like yourself want to start a circle, and we're like, great, okay, you should talk this person about this and this about this. So now we have 17 pages that you can use as a resource guide for creating a circle.
And a process.
And a process.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Yep. So another big thing that when we did a survey of existing circle leaders came up was, how do you focus on being welcoming of new members and getting them kind of involved in the group, feeling welcome without starting from square one? How do you have someone new join the circle that's been in place for a year or two or even 2 months and not have to reintroduce everyone, kind of go through things again? So we have a whole page about new circle member orientation and recruiting. So it's just a lot of different ideas for circle leaders to help get to know those new members outside of that first meeting they come to, so that when they come, they kind of have the groundwork laid out for them already and have a good understanding of what the circle is all about. This will also help making sure that people who say, oh, I live south of the river, so I'm going to come to the south of the river circle. Well, if they sit down with one of us who leads that circle and realize, okay, maybe that doesn't sound like the right group, you don't have as much turnover and people coming to one meeting and then wondering why they never come back. So some of the ideas we have is, to take time out of your day, grab coffee with them before they come to that first meeting, or invite them to come to wherever the event is, the first meeting's happening that they'll be at, 15 or 20 minutes early, so that you can kind of get to know them one-on-one, and then you're making the introduction of them to the group so that they feel more comfortable. Sending them an email. We have a few different samples too that are included in the guide of just different resources or information about your group, so that they have, again, that groundwork for understanding how things work. And then just really making that particular effort to include them in the group meeting and make sure that they feel comfortable speaking up and adding their opinion, so that you get that buy-in from them right away. And then in terms of recruiting, if anyone has more in-depth questions, I can help, but we just have some ideas. Are attending the pop-ups, attending the quarterly leaders meeting. Really, people aren't going to know about your group unless you're telling them about your group. Making sure that it is listed on our website, so asking the chapter leadership group that runs the website to make sure that that's listed, and keeping your events on the calendar up to date, keeping your meeting schedule up to date is all helpful for that as well. Inviting people, so that goes back to why you're starting your circle. If you want it to be focused on your industry or an interest, maybe it's a lean-in circle that gets together and everyone's knitting while you're talking about feminism or whatever it is. Really targeting those people, whether it's at work that you're talking to coworkers or it's going to different networking events and talking to people, just different ideas there. And then just thinking about where you hang out and spend time, because oftentimes those are going to be the circles that end up having that really good rapport from the beginning, as if you all like to go to the same places or do the same things. It's good to have variety and diversity, but it's a good kind of jumping off point for thinking who you might want to recruit. Then also social media is always really helpful for that. So whether it's just being active in our Facebook group and LinkedIn group, posting and saying that you're open to new members is really important there too. So then Amy had put together some great lessons learned that over her 4 years of leading the circle have been really helpful. So we kind of walked through different communication tips, really focusing again on being a guide versus a teacher. So don't think of it as you're putting on a presentation or a seminar or a workshop for the members in your circle. Really, you're just guiding them through a conversation, and you can learn just as much as they are. Saying yes when people offer to help, but then giving them a specific task to do. So, oh, I'm glad you want to help out more. If you could send out that reminder email for the group every month, that'd be great. Just taking some of those little things off your plate, because it is a really big commitment of your time and energy to run a circle. Setting really clear boundaries. So making sure that, again, going back to the commitment, the communication, and the confidentiality piece, that there are pretty clear boundaries when it comes to what's shared in the circle, staying in the circle, and what kind of topics are comfortable for people to discuss. And then also to make sure that you're finding training and support, and hopefully our work group will be a good resource for that. But if you have a question about something, don't wait until someone magically has the answer for you. Seeking out some help or resources when you can. And then the next piece in the guide we'll come back to if you're following along in there with the mentoring. We'll be talking about that in just a couple minutes. But then really the next piece that I think is probably most helpful, or one of the more helpful things, is just getting together some of those email templates that can be hard to do. And I always recommend to set these up as quick parts or signature pickers or whatever works for you. But we have a list of different lean-in resources, different videos or articles that you could use as jumping off points for meetings, but also a meeting announcement email stolen from the SIFS circle that has a great meeting announcement email. And then a welcome to a new member email based off something that Kelly, who co-leads the South of the River Circle with me, leads. And then something I kind of threw together for that person who hasn't been coming to meetings, you haven't heard from in a while, how to kind of send them a warm email to reach out of that absent member. So obviously tweak it as much as you want with any of these things. Are not necessarily the way you have to do it, but just good ways for you to see what other successful circles are doing. And then we also have a great resource at the end. It's an update exercise for, as part of that agenda, updating each other on, something great that's happened in the last month, something that you're looking for coaching on, just a little worksheet that I know the Nevertheless Be Persistent circle uses. So a lot of these are things that we've pulled from the existing circles, and it's really the best practices that are happening here in the Twin Cities for Lean In. So the next part is to ask you guys for your feedback. We want to be an open conversation because we want to know if there's something that we missed in this startup guide. Obviously, we're going to have ongoing resources and trainings when it comes to more of those facilitation skills and things. This is really just that jumping off point or the kind of overall guide. But any things for those existing circle leaders that we might have missed, or if you're looking at starting a circle, you're like, well, this would be nice to have. Linda.
So I don't have this issue at all, but content. And I know you're referring to the Lean In website, but maybe I missed it as you were talking about. But tell me again where the, oh my God, I don't know what we should. I personally think that's ridiculous because you just ask people in the group, what are your goals, and then the content comes from that.
Yeah.
But some new leaders get all worried that they're not going to have content. And it's just like, what? Like there's like TED and like there's a bazillion stuff out there. But that is a pain point where people are like get scared that they're not going to have content.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's it. We have a link because Lean In has a whole library of videos and sample meeting templates, then pull agenda set up for you. So you really just have to make sure you're reviewing the content if you're going to be facilitating it first. And that would be in the steps of starting the circle. We have 5 links, one for the kickoff guide. They have all-in-one meetings. They have expert videos, and then some information about the leader roles and a marketing kit too. So I'd say the content, you probably could find a year's worth, 12 meetings worth of content just on the Lean In website in terms of getting your circle off the ground.
Do you know, for that, and I think part of this is also our responsibility as leaders to go and look, but I'm just curious if you guys know at the top of your head. For that, one of the things too, I think that more so than just a topic is worried that maybe there's not going to be discussion around what you pick, and you can show a video, but it's 15 minutes, what do you spend the rest of the time on? Does Lean In offer like questions or talking points as well?
They do, yep.
Great.
Really
It's
well
awesome.
done meeting guides.
Okay. And that's in that link that you have.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yes.
So when we first started, we collected money. But do you address money at all in the issue? Like, I get it that this is an all volunteer thing. No one's really getting paid. But the whole issue of we don't generally charge and Lean In unless they're expenses. Like we're going to have a speaker and we're going to give them a stipend. So, but maybe just something to consider.
Okay. Yeah.
Just being upfront about there is no charge for Lean In. Lean In California gives us some money to reimburse like your name tags and stuff like this. But
Oh yeah, that's a good thing we can talk about.
Okay.
I mean, I think it works really lovely, given that we're not in a city where space is so expensive that we can use the library and stuff like that.
Some ideas for a host your meeting.
Yeah.
If you have a rural apartment, you can't host there. Anything else? Yeah.
Is there any suggested like topics that, there's already a number of circles established, but like a parking lot for topics that overall as a larger organization that we want to cover that maybe someone hasn't taken on yet, that people who want to leave say, oh, there's something that I'm really interested in, passionate about, I'd like to move forward with this type of topic. Is there anything like that we have?
My guess is that as we change the structure of this chapter and go to pop-up meetings, a step for that might be to create a possible agenda for each year. I remember we did that in December of last year. And so I think what you're saying is people can step forward and lead a topic within their circle or within a larger context as well for an entire chapter. Right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, or if there's a specific premise for a group. Like it sounds like there might be themes for some of the groups that people are particularly passionate around, or subject areas. I'm an IT person, so I want to talk about women in IT, or I want to talk about all careers for women.
Yeah.
Something like that. Are there suggested group focuses, I guess is what
So
I'm asking.
you're talking about when choosing a circle. So
Right, if I'm a
Okay.
person who's not leading, but I really think really, I'm called to be a leader, but I'm not really sure what the need is out there.
Well, I think that's a good point, so I'm kind of in the same place where I'm trying to decide, should I do something at work? I work for a big company, right? That might be easier. Or to your point, there might be an area of interest that might be interesting to like women in technology or women in HR or women in financial services, etc. So maybe just an area that talks about some suggestions on how to think about where you want to focus, right? Because you don't want to be too narrow, you don't want to be too broad. It feels like.
So, Mary, so it sounds to me like you're talking about a brainstorming cache or a bucket of great ideas that you might wander through because you're not sure, and if something catches your interest, you can say, oh, these 3 out of those 20 are things I'm going to pursue further so I can decide on one, which makes me think of, Amy, you mentioned on the big lean insight, on the lean insight, there are all of these topic and suggestions and some planned meetings. So it sounds to me like one of the answers. The other thing that I'm recalling is when we planned 2017, when we got together and whoever pre-planned it had a big list of some 26 or 30 items, and everybody voted, these are my top 3, all and put a little check mark, and that enabled us to pick the 6 topics that the large circle did as 2017 went on every other month. So that initial gathering of a great brainstorm of 25 or 30 ideas could be placed somewhere, or you could have a brainstorming ideas bucket, whatever you want to call it, on the site that anybody could ping into and grow that list. That's more local rather than the larger national lean-in idea.
Like on the Slack.
I don't know. Maybe, yes,
Well,
sure.
to kind of grow off that and also share the wealth of work, I'm wondering if that's maybe something that our social media team can tackle, and when we do that once a year and get those topics at the quarterly lean-in meeting, maybe we can make that something on Facebook and pin that at the top, and then if people want to see that and view those topics. So I think it could be challenging too to have, it'd be a lot of work to have a page that someone would have to maintain every time someone wants to add an idea, or when we have so many fluctuations of people coming, that could just be a huge laundry list. But if we do it as part of our quarterly leaders, and we want people to come and participate, that's incentive for people to come and give their ideas, and then we keep that as something, and you can access different files on Facebook, and then that's also sharing the wealth, because you guys put in a ton of work into this guide, and so then we can help out and do our part on another team, and then we'll share that. So, I mean, is that something that sounds like we could do, and have that potentially that document live somewhere on the social media and access that?
I think that'd be really helpful.
And then link to it.
Yeah, and then even to take it that one step further, maybe we have one of those pop-up events next year where it's people who are looking to start a circle or looking to join a circle.
Yes.
And then you basically say, here are the things I've been thinking of starting a circle about women in technology. Who'd be interested? And then you can see who, and you're like, okay, maybe it's only one other person. Maybe would it be more broad of women in technology and the sciences? Well, then 3 more hands go up. Okay, let's get together and talk. So I think that could be another way that I think has been discussed to do that too. And then I think we keep those ideas, or if someone comes to us and says, I want to start a circle about XYZ, but I don't know who else would be interested, we can kind of keep that, so when other people come and ask for a group like that, we can then start connecting those people, because I think at the end of the day, it goes to the individuals to start a circle and maintain it. It can't. So I think having those lists and everything is great, but it has to be, then everyone else has to take that next step and actually get it off the ground.
So is there a place somewhere that all of the leaders of these small circles post their topics so that new people can see what the smaller circles are doing for their topics?
Don't think that's part of our calendar. It's just the name of the group and the day and the time that
We
you're
do.
doing it.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
If you register your circle on the Lean In site, it does say, and on our website, we have a broad overview of the general themes of our circle. It doesn't break it down per meeting what we talk about, but it kind of outlines, what the circle focus on. So I know for SIFs, we say that we focus on lifestyle and work, because we kind of do every other, or we try to. And also there's Facebook, and so they'll outline that in their layout and things like that. So that can be found on our website, but it's not a breakdown every month. I think the only other best guess would be sometimes people post on the Facebook group about what they've talked about, but it's not a practice that people do religiously.
And I'd say some circles are accepting new members, some aren't. So the ones who are accepting new members, I'd say it's something you can probably add to the guide in recruiting is every time you have a meeting to post it in the Facebook group and say this is what we're talking about next week on Thursday at 7, here's the location, email me if you're coming. So I think it's something that over time people can decide if that's effective for them or not. I think some people get nervous about doing that because then you have all these people who say they're coming or say they're interested in. For me, if I'm hosting a meeting at my townhome and 20 people tell me they're coming, I'm now looking for a different venue. So you want to make sure that you're kind of being targeted in who you're letting know they're invited, just because of some of those space constraints too. So I think it's a balance, but it's a good idea.
So we're at time for our break. If people have additional questions or suggestions for
2 minutes left.
Amy and Jen, or do you want to?
If anyone has any other feedback, please feel free to reach out. We both are very open to your suggestions and comments. Just as an update on what we're doing next. So I don't know if you want to talk about the mentoring.
Yeah, just a follow up to the discussion that we had. To me, it sounds like what we're interested in providing is what else is going on in Lean In, both at a chapter and a pop-up level, as well as the individual circles. Like, where are we sharing that information? How do people who are interested in getting involved, can they find out how they can get involved and where and when? So just, I think, thinking big picture as we create structure around our chapter, how can we better provide that information for people? That's sort of the takeaway that I have from that. And I think that that's something that we're continually trying to improve upon. So great feedback and discussion. And I think, we can take that and use that in a lot of different ways to make that easier for people. Yeah. So our next step is to create a mentoring program. So for people who are interested in starting a circle and would like to know even more, sort of that one-on-one experience, to contact our work group and to get paired with an experienced circle leader to go through that. And then, like Jen said, when we got the feedback from the surveys and from discussing this with people at the quarterly meeting, what we heard a lot is that there's a need for skills development as well. What are the actual facilitation skills, and how do we, as leaders, and both in Lean In and other places, develop those types of skills? So that's why we started with the resource guide, just to get it all down on paper and provide a framework and a roadmap. And then ongoing, we'll be working on that skills development. So we hope to have that as part of our quarterly meetings. And then also to create a pop-up in 2018 where we'll really focus on more of that hands-on skills.
That's everything.